Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Update 1.25 for Gran Turismo 7 is here, and I am continuing my coverage all day for this brand new update. Now, this is the last of the new events from this update. This is a continuation essentially of the kind of Gr.1 VGT Prototype series that they had going a few updates back now. I mean, I believe like 1.15 when we first got the Toyota hypercar. This is essentially an extra event for them, one of the ones away from the cafe menu for this update. And yeah, I'm kind of here to talk you through it, obviously give you my overall opinion on the event and kind of what I think, if I enjoyed it, if I didn't like it, how could it have been improved, all that good stuff. Okay, so to begin with, I'm actually just going to give you an overview of my strategy for this event, because just like the previous prototype races, you are going to find yourself struggling more in terms of the overpowered AI driver, which is A. Wilk. Obviously, he will be driving, I believe it's the Jaguar VGT, or the sort of like Gr.1 version of that. It was extremely overpowered the first time around with the first, I think, 3 events, and it's the same here. So this is actually running on normal difficulty, and to be honest, in terms of the actual racing, this turned out to be probably one of my favorite races ever against the AI, and you'll see a bit, you know, kind of why later on. But as you can see, my main strategy here is running the Porsche LMP1, obviously a hybrid vehicle, so we've got insane acceleration, not the best top speed as you can see here, as we pretty much get chewed up by a few Group C's, and I believe that's one of the VGT Group 1 cars behind us. Yeah, so my main kind of thing was to run Fuel Mix 5 for the first kind of, you know, 3/4 of it, and then boost the engine up right at the end and have a big sprint to the finish. Obviously, I'm running hard tyres here because I know I can essentially go for longer, and I'm pretty much assuming that AI will pit. So I'm hoping that the rain kind of holds off, we can do a big long run and obviously get the tyres to the end, obviously conserve fuel until the end, and have obviously that sprint to the finish like I said. So that was the plan for this, and it did actually pretty much work out perfectly, but you'll kind of see that unfolding as the event and the background footage goes on. So the event itself, let's talk about that. Now, I feel like this is going to be one that will probably disappoint a bunch of people, but at the same time, when I kind of saw it appear, I did say, you know, possibly it could be a higher paying race, which, you know, in terms of these kind of events, it does pay a little bit higher, but not enough to really be sort of a go-to grinding track. Now, one thing to kind of note, it is a continuation essentially of one of the previous menu books, so it's very much in line with those payouts and in line with how that event works. And I still feel like this was a missed opportunity to have a more endurance focused Group 1 event. Now, people have been crying out for Group 1, you know, prototype racing events for as long as I can remember, really. Pretty much ever since we got the last menu book, people were saying they weren't long enough and all that. And again, this falls in the same kind of style to those events, and you know that people are going to still be having the same things to say. However, in terms of the actual racing, the location, all that good stuff, it's literally perfect. You know, I genuinely do wish they would have gone for an endurance theme. I'd absolutely happily put 50 laps in here at Fuji, because I genuinely found myself having that much fun. Running the Group 1 cars is always awesome. The sights, the sounds, the strategy that goes into longer races, having to conserve fuel and tyre life, it really does make the racing, well, as perfect as Gran Turismo 7 can be. And that's the thing, it was probably the most fun 15 minutes I've ever had in Gran Turismo 7, and you just feel like, you know, as you get in towards the end, you're like, you know, I really don't want this to end, but it's gonna, and it's a bit of a shame that it is limited to 10 laps, because they will fly by in these cars, even at somewhere like Fuji. However, in terms of the actual racing itself, this is honestly as good as it gets for Gran Turismo. You know, I found myself having constant battles. I'm having to do a charge through the field, even, you know, with how they've got the sort of wear and fuel rate set. It did kind of give off those vibes which I would have liked over a longer event, but in a kind of shorter package. It was probably one of my favorite high octane races that I've ever had. You're trying to charge through the field while maintaining your tires. You're trying to keep the fuel mix going. You're constantly watching the weather because you don't know what that's going to do. It was just honestly top notch. Like I really did absolutely love my time with this event, and if you take it for what it is, this is honestly the best additional event we've actually ever had. Obviously not in terms of its length, but in terms of the actual racing it provides, the track we're given, the AI that we're up against. It honestly feels exactly what Gran Turismo 7 should be on a constant basis. Ignore all the kind of throw-in events like I did mention in Sylvia Sisters, the 450pp events that they sometimes bundle in, like the Clubman ones. Look, they're only good if you've got a good choice of really basic cars, and I'm talking things like Peugeot 206s, 306s, Renault Lagunas from way back when. They work much better in that way. In Gran Turismo 7, I don't think they really feel right. There's not enough kind of really sort of, well, not terrible cars, but really kind of basic economy, hatches and stuff like that, to make them what they should really be. So they never live up to their potential, and I don't see them going down that route. Obviously, a lot of those cars are really outdated, and it'd be ridiculous to really license them. But if they are wanting to kind of add events that aren't complete throwaways and work well, focus on these Group 1s. Give us more of these, but give us some longer races, like Spa, the 1 hour races. It would literally work so perfect. Nothing beats the speed, the sound, the sights of these LMP1 cars mixed with Group 3 and even the the VGT Group 1s all on track at once. It literally feels as it's the grids as crazy as you kind of imagine Gran Turismo grids to be, with a mixture of cars along with really awesome racing, having to manage everything. It is honestly this is when Gran Turismo really stands out as that missed potential, because the potential is clearly there. If you can make a 15-minute kind of sprint format race this entertaining with so much packed in one, there's no reason why you cannot extend that and really make a longer event based on the same kind of thing. All you have to do is just adjust the fuel wear, the fuel rate and the tire wear rate, keep the same kind of grid, and away you go. Just put us at some of these awesome tracks. Fuji is an absolutely amazing track to drive on, and again that lends it to its favor. Just like Spa is such a great track to drive on for the 1 hour event. You have things like the 24-hour layout of Nürburgring, which barely ever gets touched, or in fact I don't even think it does get touched, apart from a single event at the end of the game, where you could really play into these prototype races, or even I know it's going to be a bit of a stretch, this one, have multi-class. Things like Grid Legends have multi-class, where you can even make those races yourself. Obviously it's a different set of tracks and stuff, but you still have the option to do that. And I really think, look, if you want to put these enjoyable events in, extend them, mix them up, and just stick to this format, because honestly, at this very moment while I was doing this race, everything that all the complaints about Gran Turismo and certain features missing and stuff just completely went, because it was honestly that enjoyable. The racing was awesome. The fact that I'm getting caught behind traffic and I'm thinking, right, this is going to cost me time in the long run. Obviously I'm playing the long-term game here in this race. Like, honestly, yeah, it was absolutely awesome. It was the kind of event that made you forget absolutely everything that's kind of at fault with this game. And it shows that Polyphony still do have it. They need to be allowed. If they're being held back, then look, Sony, allow them to have the freedom they want, or the freedom they once had. If they are doing it off their own back and they're just adding these pointless events and ignoring features, look, Polyphony, you can still win your fan base back. Do not leave it until it's too late. Put more of these events in, extend them, and I can promise you, you will see floods of players coming back, especially if the payout is in the right place as well, because this is another downside to it, is it really does show that the payouts aren't quite there. If this had been a bit of a longer event, or more in line, or even half the price of what you get from running something like Sardinia, which only takes around about 23 minutes with certain builds, then if you were going to make this event, say, you know, like it is 15 minutes, maybe even 20 minutes with an extra 5 laps or whatever, and you even made it half the payout of those kind of what we call the typical grinding events, honestly, I feel like much more people would have been running this over and over again, and it felt even fresher. So again, the payout's not quite there for people to use this long term, but yeah, it is a bit of a shame, and there is a few things I wish they could just go back and just tweak a little bit, because I honestly don't think it'd take that much doing. You know, it cannot be that difficult to just essentially, you know, tweak the fuel rate and stuff. And you know, the thing that you're going to hear a lot by a lot of people when you kind of say that is go into custom race. Now, the main kind of drawback from custom races, while they are absolutely perfect and are actually working better than ever now we've had the kind of tire feature changed, you can actually get some really awesome races, is obviously the payouts completely nuked in comparison to some other events. So, you know, to run a 24-hour event and earn like, I think it's like 200k, it's ridiculous. Nobody's going to really do that, especially when this game is so focused on grinding them credits. But you know, the easy workaround is for them to just put these events in and just extend the payouts a tiny little bit. Even if I said, you know, it's like half of it or half of what you get at Sardinia for, you know, 15 minutes work, more people are going to be inclined to use these events. More people are then going to be using the Gr.1s and the prototypes and the VGT Gr.1s and such. And honestly, I just think you'll have a happier fan base for it, Polyphony, because I just feel like this was a show of potential. Now, most people are probably going to look over this event and just tick it off and then be like, okay, that was okay. You know, it was more prototype racing. But I see it in a deeper way that it really was a massive show of potential. You know, you're going to see through this clip, obviously I've charged through the field, I'm up into first place, you know, I've got a charging Jaguar prototype Gr.1 behind me, and obviously, you know, it's a 3-second gap, my tyres are starting to wear off, I've got fuel to watch, you know, I've got to constantly think about when I can, you know, really, you know, turn that engine up and go for that sprint. I'm kind of watching the weather, which you probably see me flick through constantly, and it just really did make for such an awesome race. You know, I enjoyed my time here more than I ever did through any of the cafe menus, more than I have in a long time. The only other thing that really gets close is when I'm kind of league racing or racing with my subscribers and stuff, because we've had some awesome moments. But in terms of racing with the AI and, you know, as a new event, it felt insanely fresh. The racing was insanely good. I'm micromanaging everything else, which you kind of want from these, you know, LMP1 cars. You want the longer events, but it's kind of condensed down. So, you know, that is the only drawback. I felt like I could quite happily continuously do this for hours on end. Like, to be honest, you hear a lot of people complain saying there's not any, you know, 24-hour events. Where are all they? Now, I do have possibly, and it's only a slight, you know, kind of, I guess, feeling that there's probably some rules behind that these days. Obviously, everything is very kind of, I guess, overly protective. You know, I feel like if there's going to be some rule as to why they cannot kind of make these longer endurance races, over the risk of someone doing it for 24 hours straight and then, you know, as sad as it's say, dying over it, because you hear about it all the time. You hear people, especially in sort of Asia and stuff, where a lot of internet cafes are, doing absolute binges on games and then having heart attacks and stuff like that, which obviously it's not funny, but you know, with Gran Turismo being from that part of the world, I feel like they may have some extra rules in place for them. But if that is the case, then for them to kind of avoid the blame, put that in the custom races or up their payouts and let us, you know, create our own races like this. In fact, that is one massive way to kind of, I guess, cure that boredom from the grind and allow us to collect these cars and go through everything, is up the payout of custom races in line with what they should be. That way it actually saves Polyphony a bunch of time continuously adding events for people to just sit there and complain. So honestly, that's just my honest opinion on this event. It felt almost perfect, and I haven't had a racing like this against the AI for a very long time. In fact, probably at any time within Gran Turismo 7. So do you know what I'm going to say? Bravo, Polyphony. You know, if you do end up watching this, which I highly doubt it, you know, I am praising you. I am genuinely saying that this is a perfect event. Just extend it, and honestly, it would be god tier in terms of the racing, and it would be absolutely god tier in showing off just how good Gran Turismo 7 can be. So yeah, more of this please, Polyphony. Don't let me down, because honestly it felt good to be able to turn around and say, look, yes, you did do something right. So as you can see, in terms of the actual event itself, it's been a crazy close race, and thankfully the second place driver did get stuck behind the lap traffic at the most perfect moment possible. The rain's starting to come down and we're just about to cross the finish line. So that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Take care, guys. Peace.